I represent INTELSAT here. We've got an office in Delhi, and we've got a small office in Delhi, and we've got a larger office in Chennai, which is more like a software development center that I'm going to speak about a little bit in terms of where we are seeing the emerging trends. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to talk about emerging trends and opportunities first, and then I will talk a little bit about emerging technologies and end up with the issues that we are all facing as to how we ensure that we are on the right path for. Before I get into the slide, this slide talks about 5 different verticals that INTELSAT is engaged with globally. And we are proud to say that 4 out of these 5 verticals, we are existing in India today. And we must proudly say that with the help of ISRO, NSIL, we are now present across the aviation industry in India, across the maritime and mobility segment in India. And we were always, and of course networks business, and we were always present in the media segment for a while now. I must make a point here. You can see the numbers. We are there in a fair amount of, with a fair amount of presence across these 4 industries globally, as well as in India now. But I would want to make a point here that since yesterday, through all the sessions that we've been through, we've been hearing that the current status of the current industry, the space industry that we have in India is close to $7 billion. And then we are planning to, we would want to grow at a rate of 10% for the next 10 years and so on. But the key element for that is, on the growth side, is that about 80 to 90% of that growth is likely to come from downstream applications, just about 10, 15% from the upstream side of things. And when we say downstream applications, these are the applications that we are talking about. And while we may seem to suggest that some of these applications are no longer growing, and these are old space applications, for example, media, we still believe there is a huge amount of opportunity in India across these 4 segments. So of course, the in-flight communication and maritime markets are newer markets. They are just emerging. And we've entered these markets as they opened in the last 3-4 years. But the media segment and the network segment, these are existing markets, and we still see a lot of demand on C-band media applications for distribution of media content on networks business, etc. And one of the inputs that I must mention to the organizers of this event is, while this forum has a lot of representation from the space industry, if the downstream industry and the applications that are being used for satellite growth are the ones which are driving the growth for the space industry, I would have been happier if there was more representation across the users from the media segment or the network segment or even the maritime and the aviation segment. And I wish someday we'll see that user segment being a part of this BSX Expo. I must also mention, while I'm talking about the 4 different segments, and these are the emerging trends as well, that at INTELSAT, we believe that these segments have a tremendous growth potential in India, and we are going to definitely focus on these 4 segments, the media, networks, maritime, and IFC, over the next decade, eagerly anticipating the space policy, wanting to work very closely with InSpace and NSIL and others to ensure that we comply to the new policy and we be a part of the growth plans in India. Now I'll move over to the second topic, which was more to do with emerging technologies. And I've got a couple of slides. I'll try and be brief because some of my earlier speakers have already mentioned what this is about. So in today's world, when we talk about new technologies, we are talking about LEOs, MEOs, GEOs, even HAPS coming up. So different kinds of orbital systems, different kind of constellations. But the idea that we are trying to say here is that no single system is going to address the needs of the entire user community. And therefore, there is no single panacea. We need to have a mix of different solutions, a hybrid ecosystem, which will depend on some of the key considerations, like gateways, like satellites, what is the coverage of a satellite, what is the footprint, how do you hand off between one LEO satellite which is being followed by another LEO satellite on the same orbit. What is the type of terminals? I think that is one of the key challenges. I'm going to talk about that in the last slide. For low Earth constellations and MEO systems, you would need gateways, and therefore the location of gateways, the cost and the capex involved, those are key considerations. And overall, I think what makes sense is the economics behind delivering a particular service for an end customer. And as Mr. Bijanath said, customization is the need of the hour. The more we deliver a solution for a particular user application, which is customized based on a particular satellite, how it delivers a particular SLA, I think that's going to be the way forward as to deriving the right economics for this market. I'll quickly go through what we believe is the future of, in the next 5 years maybe, of the satellite industry. And we believe there is going to be a unified network. Our vision is for a unified network solution. And as you can see, it's a multi-orbit. So you can see geostationary satellites, MEOs, LEOs, multi-orbit, multi-layered system across different bands, depending upon what the requirement is. So we have different kinds of bands here, mix of GSOs, NGSOs, and even HAPs going forward. And then I must mention a little bit about the ground system, because a lot of the speakers have already mentioned about it. As we go forward in the future, it is the ground systems which is really going to make a lot of difference in terms of how this service is enabled and it's delivered. The 5G standards that are coming up will really help the industry overall. And one of the key elements which I think Dr. Chandraprakash did mention, I must echo that, is the standardization of terminals in the market. So far, all the terminals that we see, the networks that we see in the SATCOM market today are proprietary in nature. Somewhere down the line, in the next few years, as the 5G standards and the NTN comes into play across satellite networks, there should be standardization of terminals. There should be terminals which can be interoperable along with the backbone of a 5G network in terms of OSS, BSS, provisioning, etc. And I think that's the future vision that we carry, and that's where we see the world is moving to.
One more minute, Mr. Kharod.
Sure, sir.
Yeah.
I will quickly run through the 3 pillars that we believe are going to create that future vision. We believe software-defined satellites is the way to go. A software-defined satellite will have footprints which can be tailored, power which can be tailored, the capacity which can follow a particular customer requirement during the course of a day. Of course, as I said, 5G standardization, backbone, which can be standardized across the network. And of course, we are looking at smart edge terminals, which are the need of the hour as we have requirements which go across LEO, MEO, and GSO satellites. The terminals need to be agile, and they need to be mass produced. They need to have the right economics to cater to a multi-orbit satellite, multi-orbit system. And I'll spend one last minute on this. We believe the key issues for the industry are the following. Of course, there's a whole big list, but I'm sticking to just the 3 main ones which I believe are important. And I have a request to the InSpace team here and to the DOS members if they are here in the audience. Spectrum for satellite is one of the key elements which is keeping us all alive and this industry going. And that, to me, right now is under threat. For existing users, we've seen already under C-band and in Ka-band, there is a lot of overlap in terms of terrestrial technologies coming in. So please protect existing users, existing investments. Also, kindly help us all get together and unite in trying to use the international regime under the ITU for spectrum allocation and management. I already talked about terminal innovations. Flat panel terminals are the need of the hour. We need them to be made more and more economically viable as networks become multi-orbit in nature. And then the last one is, again, I urge DOS and InSpace to help the space economy, the space industry as players within the industry to represent them at the right forum. And I have a couple of examples to mention. Terminals in the mobile industry, like a cell phone that we all use, are easy to import. A similar modem for a satellite terminal is very, very difficult. Another example could be downstream applications. The requirement for a DSNG van for carrying news gathering services on satellite is so onerous compared to a similar application which a backpack terminal with a few SIM cards is doing today. Those SIM cards do not require any regulatory permissions, and we as satellite industry require a whole lot of regulatory applications, permissions. And I think those are some of the inputs that I would really want the industry to be supported by the regulators. Thank you very much.